Welcome to the Business with Beers podcast. This is the place where we help entrepreneurs expand their business, build their wealth, and generate passive income. I'm your host, Brian Beers, an entrepreneur who's on a mission to inspire growth from everyone around me. Remember that you need to take the actions others won't, and you can live the life that others don't. Please be sure to check out my weekly newsletter that now drops every Thursday. It includes one quote, one tweet, one podcast recommendation, plus some business and investing insight from me. It's short and it's sweet. My goal is to provide you with just a couple gold nuggets to help inspire your growth. Go to brianbeers.com to subscribe. Hey, welcome to the show, Sam.
What's up, Brian? Thanks for having me on, man. I'm excited for this conversation.
Awesome. Me too. I think you got a lot to offer. So to kick us off here, can you give us an idea of your journey from, I don't know, let's start at 15 years old for you and get up to kind of where we're at now in terms of how you've kind of built your business, and then we'll kind of dive into some of the specifics.
Yeah. Did you pick 15 just randomly, or was that actually like
it's from your bio? It's from your bio. So
okay, got it. Yeah. I was like, dang, like I became a business owner at 15, bro. How did you know? No, in all seriousness, I mean that was where it started. I was training martial arts at the time, and my mom had got me in martial arts. I'm from a homeschooled family in a small town right outside of Lynchburg, Virginia, and my parents had I have 7 brothers and sisters, so 8 including me, and we were all homeschooled. So my mom, we all kind of got one thing to do, and mine was martial arts. And my martial arts instructor came to me probably when I was 13 or 14 and started to groom me to become an instructor. And then when I turned 15, he actually was like, Sam, look, I'm burnt out. You've been training to become an instructor. He wanted to go fish professionally on the bass fishing circuit, whatever that's called. And he said, I want to sell you to school. So he took my parents out to Texas Roadhouse. I'll never forget this, the Texas Steakhouse or whatever, the restaurant.
You're 15 years old.
I was 15. I was almost 16 to be fair.
So you almost had your driver's license. Okay.
Yeah, I think let's see. Oh shoot. Maybe I didn't have my license because I was 16 in 3 months, which is when I would have got it in Virginia. So my parents ended up loaning me like $15,000 to buy this little martial arts school in a small town right outside of Lynchburg. And that was the start of my entrepreneurial journey. I remember when someone came in and paid for a headgear, like a sparring helmet that they were using. And I remember at the time, my instructor had taught me like you don't deposit cash, you just kind of like pocket it.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
And so I was like, I pocketed like $60 and I was like, this feels so awesome. It's how much I would have made in 4 hours, normally, or 6 hours. So that started my journey, man. And then I just got involved in some really great mentors and around some certain people, and they started talking about real estate, and I just that just evolved. But it was cool. I mean, when I was in the martial arts school, man, people would ask me how old I am, but I would always spike my hair because it made me look older. And I would spike my hair and they'd be like, well, how old are you? And I would always tell them, well, how old? The response was always, how old do you think I am? And then no matter what they would say, they'd be like, well, we think you're like 20 or something. You got to be, I don't know, 21 to be running this business. I'd be like, wow, it's a great guess. Well, it's time to go start your class. Let's go. And I would just never answer, but I was 15, 16, 17 as I was running this school.
Okay.
But
did it make money?
I learned a lot, man. Marketing, sales, systems. I know you mentioned you wanted to kind of dive into some systems talk, like a lot about systems, a lot about people. I can't say that I'm an expert. I'm still learning. Here it is 16 years later. I'm still learning, bro.
Okay.
But so that started my foray.
Did it make money?
Yeah, dude, I paid off my parents were so impressed that I paid off my $15,000 loan to my parents. I want to say in 6 months. And I was a 16, at that point I was a 16-year-old. And so they were like, whatever you're doing, we like it, because, I wasn't raised from a really, really rich family, but they had their means, and they blessed us with so much more than money. It was work ethic. And so, I think my first year in that business, I probably made maybe $50,000-$60,000.
Okay. Yeah. That's awesome though.
That was rolling in it for me back then. That was so rolling in it.
Okay. So what happened there? What came next?
Well, it was in such a small town. I decided to move to Charlottesville, Virginia, to where University of Virginia is a very prestigious school. They're one of the top business schools in the nation. And I didn't go to the school, but I was just giving people context for where Charlottesville is. And I opened a martial arts school there. And this is probably still to this day one of my most proud business accomplishments. I was maybe 20 at the time, maybe 19 or 20 at the time. And I rented a 20-foot by 20-foot hotel conference room to do my martial arts classes in. And I rented it for 2 days per week. And I think I paid $30 a night. And so then I went out into the street corner, literally the street corner. Like I'd go in front of Harris Teeter's, one of the grocery stores we have here. And I'd just go stand and hand up my cards. And I would do this little thing called a survey where we'd go, excuse me, sir, excuse me, ma'am, I'm doing a survey. Would you mind answering 3 quick questions? This is the sales. This is the only sales I knew, this and calling daycares to see if I could teach classes. And that first month, our gross sales, and I'm so proud of this to this day, was like $10,500. But the crazy thing is I didn't even have to pay my rent for that school, for the hotel until after.
Okay.
So I remember until after the month was over. So I remember walking out and being like, you know, those people who say they have to have money to make money. Like I just did this crazy thing. And I had great mentors. My instructor, Master Arthur, God bless him, at the time was just coaching me through this. And a good friend, Don Alley, was coaching me through this. And it was just so cool, man, because I made money and I was in this little hotel. I was push pinning my student oath banner to the wall. I was putting little spots down on the carpet for my students to stand. I put my uniforms out on a table every time. I just set up my school every time.
Pure hustle, right?
Yeah. And then long story short, I grew that school. I put my brother in charge. I kind of went through this really cool time in my life where I felt like I had retired and I was making money, but I didn't have to work because my brother was running my one school. My mentor calls me up and says, you need to move to Charlotte. So how I got to Charlotte was I bought 2 schools that were failing and I almost bought 5. Thank God I didn't. But the 2 schools that were failing, I just had these huge dreams and visions for me being able to come down and just whip them into shape. What ended up happening was all the staff members quit. I ended up, basically my entire life savings up to that point. One school that I bought, I gave back to the guy I bought it from. Like 2 weeks later, it was like, I can't handle it. Like, here you go. He told me he was going to sue me for the lease because he was still on the lease, but he had sold the school to me. He was like, well, I'm going to sue you for the balance of the lease then, but I'll take it back. So this whole thing ensued. And for the next 3 years, I got depressed and life was crazy. But during this time, I did invest in some real estate. I had 1 property in Charlottesville that I bought on a foreclosure. And then I'd maybe bought 1 property in Charlotte at that time, just, you know, with 3% down or something crazy like that, because I was living in it, you know?
Yep. Okay. So what's the martial art business look like today?
Today, the martial arts business has 6 brick and mortar locations. 5 are in Charlotte. That's still that one in Virginia, in Charlottesville, Virginia, is still there and crushing it and doing a great job. My brother, the brother that took over that one school, is now the CEO of all the brick and mortar schools. And we run an online program with about 150 students in like 20 some states around the United States, which is really cool and makes a big impact to these kids' lives. And they get to tune in and have a mentor virtually. So that's it. That's what the martial arts school does. It does finances wise, it does a couple $1 million a year. Actually, I have my P&L right here. COVID year may not be a good. I did 2.3 last year in income. So that was kind of us coming out of COVID and rebuilding. And
especially for a physical, like martial arts is 2 people like right next to each other, right? So if anything, I'm sure you were hurt by it.
Oh, super hurt. Yeah, we got both rounds of PPP, man. We were down 25% gross revenues.
That's it. Yeah. So has the online pivot helped? Has that grown at all? Like, is that a new frontier for you, or what does that look like?
Yeah, I need help on the online space. It's not my normal gig. So like when we transitioned, at first it was a necessity because it was the only way we could service all the memberships that we had already sold in the brick and mortar schools. So we pivoted online just to keep students, right? It was really but then we were like, wait, we could sell memberships all over the United States now. The problem is, man, we're selling these memberships. We're charging, I just don't think we're charging enough. We're charging like $125 to $150 per month. They're getting in-person classes, group classes. But I think we just got to change the model, and I'm researching different ways to change the model. But yeah, it's helped. Cool. It's cool. I've got my younger brother actually runs that business and is excited. I think it does like $12,000 to $15,000 per month, and it's like it's fun, but it doesn't like
cool. So let's
nothing crazy to write home about quite yet. Give me a year though. We're on.
There you go. So let's talk about real estate a little bit. You kind of mentioned, you started, taking your money out of your active business and maybe then focus on building some passive income or real estate income. So what's that look like? What's the first property you bought, and kind of like let's walk through what the portfolio looks like today.
Yeah, man, I will. I will share this one lesson I learned along the way, though. And it was a lesson that was ingrained in me by my parents, but I teach it now as much as I possibly can because it's so basic. Okay. It's so basic. But my parents thought Y2K was going to happen, like the year 2000 crash. So like when they thought the computers weren't going to be able to keep up. I don't know if you remember, this was a big scare.
Yeah.
So we doomsday prepped hardcore for this, but I was young at the time. And so it taught me to save. Like my dad was literally like taking cash and putting in PVC pipes and burying it in the ground. And he said, go buy silver because like silver, it's the only hard asset. And so I bought all these bars of silver. When I was young, I was like working a little job and every money, silver was like $6 an ounce or $7 an ounce. So I was like, actually decent investment if you sell it, But my point in saying that is for me, I was blessed in real estate because I had money to invest. My business was doing well, but here's the secret. I just spent less than I earned. I spent less than I earned. I spent significantly less than I earned. Because of the Y2K thing, I had this like hoarding, kind of like fearful mentality. But like fear really served me in a big way. And the way that it served me during this period of my life was that I was just like every dollar I could possibly stow away, I was saving for some catastrophe that I didn't even know what it was in the future at this time. But so that allowed me to have this cash to invest. So yeah, I actually bought my first property cash. It was $67,000, but I bought it cash. And a little 3-bedroom, 3-bath condo. That was the one in Charlottesville. Then I bought these homes and I got into co-living. Yep. Really two big ahas for me. One, I bought a home and I moved into it. I was renting when I moved to Charlotte. And when I moved into the house, it was just really quiet. And I'm used to like 8 brothers and sisters and my parents. And I was like, I need to rent out some rooms. There's no way I need this whole house. So I just started to rent out a room. And then I realized like, wait a second, this house would normally rent for $1,300 a month, but I'm making like, if I had counted myself as one of the renters, I was like, I'm making like $2,700, $2,800 on this house. Okay. So I was more than doubling. Okay. Yeah. And I just thought like, okay, I'm paying for utilities and yes, there's more management, but like, hey, I still like it. Like the numbers still make sense to me. And it just made sense to me. And it was and homes were easy to get. The loans were easy to get. And I just started down that path. And so fast forward to now, 2022, my wife and I own together probably 12, somewhere between, and I have trouble keeping up because I do acquisitions and I just turn them over and I forget about them. So I think we have somewhere between 12 and 14 short-term rentals in the Asheville, Charlotte area. And I think we have 150 rooms that we rent in approximately 23 houses, 23 single family houses, like nice, large single family houses in Asheville and Charlotte, North Carolina. Okay. And so, yeah, that keeps us busy. We own the property management company that manages the short-term rentals, and we own the property management company that owns the long-term rentals. We have 3 full-time employees, then like handy contractors that work and handymen and all of that, but 3 full-time salaried employees that either lease it or show the rooms or manage the properties, or we have a maintenance man. One of the ladies is our maintenance manager that just handles all of that. Okay. And so for someone who's never heard the term co-living, can you give us like a 101? What is co-living? Rooms by rent, basically? Is that it is in essence renting out the rooms in a home. They furnish their own room. You furnish the common area. This is my model anyway. And there's some big companies getting into the space. One is called Pad Split. They're just helping people generate passive income through renting out the rooms in the home. And you can get higher returns than you can doing this as if you were to rent it out single family. Okay. And then what do you do in terms of, so you're placing a bunch of people into a room, let's say 4 bedrooms, you're placing 4 people. Kind of what's the process, I guess, first in terms of like, there's a culture of the house, right? Like you trying to match people at all? Cause like, do the roommates have a say in who they're living with? Or is it kind of you're determining it based on what you believe would work? What is that like? What does placement look like? Yeah, placement for us, we don't give the tenants a say just because it would be such a thing, right? We don't actually have a say. We don't actually give them a say. However, we do try to fit them to the home correctly. We do a full background check on everybody. We do a credit check. We do a in-person, like an over the phone interview just to make sure that they're good. And then we do a in-person interview to make sure that they are a good fit for our community, our vibe, what we're doing, and trying to just put good people that are positive and inspiring together to live and do life together. So that's the secret. That's the key. Okay. We don't, I've thought in the past about like, well, it'd be cool to like do a personality assessment on them, but I think it's just at this point, it would just be a lot of extra work to do it. Do you have any, pretty cool though, you run into any like discrimination issues? Cause I know housing and, there's certain laws in terms of that. No, it really those things just, yes, we run into those. Like sometimes we'll put ads up and we'll say stupid things that we shouldn't have said, like in the past but like, we're only a female house. Like you can't say that because you can't discriminate based on sex, right? Or only a male house, or only even like young professionals.
Yep.
Like this home is for young professionals. Like you can't technically say that. And if you advertise that way on Facebook, they just shut you down. They're like, they'll shut your whole account down. It was very strict, yep. Right? Because Facebook doesn't want to get in trouble. So therefore they make their rules super strict and it just restricts what you can put. So you got to be pretty generic when you put stuff up.
Okay. And then they kind of weed themselves out, or you're able to weed them out
for sure.
Other criteria, I'm assuming. So
based on these little interviews that we do, 100%.
Yep. So 150 rooms. What do you guys gross in a month on your co-living?
Yeah, I'll tell you what we grossed last month. How about that? I want to say it's close to 80 some thousand. Maybe we'll edit this part out, but I'm pulling it up. So we gross between, and we've added several of these homes. We've been adding homes over the last several months. So some are not fully full, some are like becoming full, but we average between 65 and 75,000 up until, in gross revenues.
Okay. Yeah. And then what, I guess on a cost basis, you have all the normal costs. Like these are a lot more profitable than if you were running a single family home to a single family.
I mean, here's the truth. Most of these homes, if I were renting that as single family, would lose money.
Okay.
Like straight up lose money, even on just the note, even on just the payment.
Okay. So like you're able to buy like nicer big homes and make money on them. Is that the?
Exactly. And I'll give you an example. This is the exact same example I gave on the Bigger Pockets podcast, but we bought a home, and when the lender underwrote it, he said, hey, like the payment needs to equal what we think you could rent it out for as a single family home. And they didn't. So he made me like pay down the interest rate. So in other words, the payment, the rent analyzer, the rent appraisal came in less than what the payment would have been. And I was like, dude, that's like not the approach I'm going for, but they didn't care, right? They needed to see that it would rent as a single family home for the same amount that the payment was.
Yep.
And it didn't. So like that deal, even if once I had added on repairs and vacancy and management, like that thing would have been underwater by $500, $600, $700 a month.
Okay. What's like a typical home you're looking for? Is it so many bedrooms? Is it like a certain purchase price? Is
large square footage, no HOA, good parking, out of the way of the neighbors or street parking, like enough parking, right, is something to be concerned about. Kind of an odd layout, honestly. You kind of look for an odd layout.
Is there an issue, big issue with neighbors basement in terms of like?
It can be.
Yeah, it can be. Have you run into anything that you've?
The biggest thing I've run into is HOAs. Like before I just started shying away from HOAs completely, the HOAs are the ones that are like, hey, you can't. And so when I coach people on how to do this model, I tell them just stay away from HOAs completely.
Okay. Yep.
And that seems to be the best. Like that seems to be the easiest way. But have I had any neighbor problems? No. And I select my properties very carefully just to make sure they're in areas that are going to be good long-term co-living places, if that makes sense.
Okay. And is that more in an area of renters, or is it more kind of in a if you're surrounded by a bunch
neighborhood?
Yep. Okay.
Right. Like you're still looking for a nice house, a good house, a big house, but you're not looking in anything in HOA. So it's obviously, you're not going to have A or A+ neighborhoods. So you're looking for B+, B- type neighborhoods where like things will just fly more there. Okay. If someone pulls on the grass, like the HOA isn't on you the next day.
There you go.
Like,
Awesome. So what, part of being an entrepreneur is having this goal of freedom, right? So you can live the life you want to live. Can you talk about that? Kind of what have you done to create more freedom in your life?
Yeah. Specifically around finances?
Yeah. Finances, how you operate your business, your life. I mean, for anyone out there who's kind of feeling maybe they bought themselves a job, and that's not what they want to be. Like, what have you done to kind of, I don't know, systematically maybe remove yourself from as much as possible in order to, make choices that you can, kind of decide what you're going to do every day? Or is that not the case? I don't know.
No, yeah, for sure. I've gotten to this place. I've been very lucky and fortunate to get to this place several times in my life where I was removed from my business. And that's felt really great. And even in the martial arts space, I've done well to and frankly, I got lucky because I have some family members that are just super badass and come in and have taken things on and allowed me to completely step out.
They're all running the day to day, right?
Yeah, for the most part. I still have meetings and some one-on-ones and still look over things, and that's important. But I think the biggest thing for me is I realized early on, and this is a lesson that I wish more entrepreneurs could learn early on, because freedom is in my opinion overrated. And I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why I think this. I became, kind of financially free, if you will, at a very young age, call it 21, 22 years old. And I wasn't making a ton of money. I was making maybe $50,000, $60,000 a year, but I wasn't having to work for it. It was when I hired my brother to take over that school in Charlottesville. And all my journal entries at the time were like, I've retired. I never have, I got a girlfriend and she wanted to travel. So we traveled. And so not this like crazy exotic life, but a really fun kind of just very free life. And what I learned, at least about me and my personality, and I don't have kids, so maybe once I have kids, this will change, right? But at least for me in that stage of my life, I was just like, I was so bored. Like it was, if anything, it was a low than it was a high. It was more like my brain just started going crazy, and I just started to like almost like I just had my parents are very, were very religious growing up, and so one of the there was some Bible verse about idle minds, just like, and so for me it was just like an idle mind. Like I was like, I need something to work on, something to solve. So that's when I dove back into the whole Charlotte, North Carolina project. Okay. And so, yeah, and then there's been other times where I've just kind of like gotten free and then be like, I need something else to do. But so freedom for me just means like I can work on the things I want to work on. It doesn't mean but it is that. I guess a lot of entrepreneurs should probably define it as that. Like, hey, I get to pick my projects, and for the most part, unless there's emergencies or a fire that breaks out that I have to, analogy of a fire, not a real fire, but then I have to jump in and do something, right? But for me, freedom, I live in the place I want to live. My real estate company pays for that. We live in a beautiful house. It's on the lake. We really are. My wife and I love this place. We drive the cars we want to drive. Our real estate company pays for those. Yes, we travel when we want to travel. And we work for the most part when we want to work. We're trying to find that balance. I think for my wife, it'd be a little less work. For me, it'd be a little bit more work, but not because I need to,
Yeah, but you enjoy it.
Freaking enjoy
I think for a lot of entrepreneurs, they enjoy the work. They enjoy, like you said, the challenge.
Yeah.
I think even like retirement, boredom, right? Like, no, I think most of us don't want to go and just sit and do nothing. But like you said, we want to spend the time working on projects that excite us, that challenge us, that feel like they're meeting like our level of whatever intellect and abilities, versus sometimes I think we feel like we're working on these like low level problems that's kind of BS, that, it's kind of a waste of our, what we could be contributing to the world and the problems we could be solving. So, man. That's a great point.
That's a beautiful way to put it.
Yeah. Freedom sometimes is not just like you do nothing. That's like, that'd be suicide, versus, doing what you want to do. So you mentioned you had a mentor in your life. Can you speak to maybe what are some of the biggest things you learned kind of from a mentor? And
well, I'll use this opportunity to shout you out, not because you and I really have a crazy deep relationship, but because someone that I do know and getting to know better has just talked you up. And so he talks about you being his mentor. And every time he talks about you, I'm reminded of the importance of just having people in our lives that speak into our lives. So anyway, I want to thank you for that though, too, because I appreciate that. I have secondhand been able to benefit from your mentorship of our mutual friend, Phil, and Phil then is an influence on my life. So it's really cool. But, all of that to be said is, I've just always had mentors, and I'm not even sure a lot of them I've told are my mentors. I've just been like, they're like my secret mentors, and I'll just like copy them, model them. I mean, there's a couple in a mastermind group that I'm a part of, that you're a part of as well, that there's guys in this group where I will just be like, I'm just going to observe, ask other people about them, kind of like sneakily they become my mentor, and I like to model that way.
Sure.
But I had martial arts mentors that coached me in business. Tony Robbins was a big mentor from afar. I just was really attracted to his energy, and I went to all of his seminars as a young kid. I went to his signature seminar, Date with Destiny. This last December, I think, was my 7th or 8th time going to that seminar.
Yeah, I saw you host him at your house virtually.
Hosted at my house. Yeah. I was in the I'm Not Your Guru documentary. I didn't play a part, but I was like, I had cameos in the documentary because I was actually at that event.
I watched that. I'll have to go back and.
Yeah. And it's cool because now that event is like memorialized in my mind and my heart forever, So yeah, man, it's always, just having somebody that is not as emotionally involved in your life as you are, right? Like one thing can happen in my life and I'm flipping out. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is the worst thing ever. And someone else is just like, dude, like, no, it's not. And here's why. Like just that balanced perspective. Throw another Bible verse in here. I learned so much is in the multitude of counselors, there is safety. That's a Bible verse my mom taught me. My mom and dad taught me, but like, it's true, right? At the end of the day, when you have counselors all around you, there's safety in a lot of the decisions you make, and it can help you overcome a lot of the fear and can help give you the courage you need to move forward with stuff. So huge fan of your work in that category. And
that's awesome. Thank you.
Always had people speaking in my life.
Yeah. Well, one of the best ones I got from the, I work with a business coach, was that like every problem is a problem of perspective. And it's like, right. Every problem that we think we have, it's just how we are viewing it. And sometimes it's having that other person who can help you see it a different way. And can change that. And really it's, that's the goal with that other person who knows your life enough to help kind of give you direction, but helps you open up to multiple options. So I mean, think through that. Next time you have a problem is it's a problem of perspective, and you just got to find a different way to look through the lens, and the answer will be found.
Dude, so well said. So well said. It's beautiful.
So what are some of the big,
and that's why it's important to keep different perspectives around you, right?
Yeah. Cause you want different people that challenge you, and people that like, you don't want to be the smartest like person in the room or the, whatever. You got to surround yourself with people that see the world differently and aren't afraid to speak up too, and tell you like, hey, you're wrong here. And,
and I wish people would think about this more, Brian. I will say this thing because it came up for me, but like, I wish people would think about leverage. Like leverage is a big word in real estate, right? Like we get to leverage our money. We get to borrow money. So we leverage from the bank and blah, 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 blah. But I wish people would think about leverage more in terms of people, which is in essence, kind of what you're saying. Like I remember being with a mentor, David Osborne, who we both mutually know. I was I think I was in Peru with him, and he brought one of his partners in one of his businesses along. And this partner was talking and he looks up, David Osborne looks over at me and he says, what he's saying is so smart. He's like, this is my version of leverage. Partner with somebody that I have no clue what he's saying, but it's so smart. He's like, partner with this guy. Now I'm doing business with the guy, and he's leveraging his influence to this. And I think it works with mentors the same way. Like you use that as leverage to help you become successful in other areas.
Yeah. And I think sometimes people think the word leverage is like, I don't know, maybe they're taken advantage of or something, but like there's a negative connotation, but really, that's not, it's, they have skills and assets, and you are resources, and you are like, moving a bigger rock, right? You think about that rock, the stick on the rock, right? At least I do when you think of leverage, and, they are able to help move this bigger object because they're stronger and better in a certain field. So I think, leveraging people and process and, all these things put together, that's how you create a business. That's how you grow a business. And otherwise we're, kind of stuck to a certain speed limit in our own lane. So
yeah, I love that. And just pay them. Sometimes just paying them, right? Like, hey, people like you and others do this as it's part of what you're trying to give back. Yep.
That's exactly right. So to wrap this up, what are some of your biggest goals you're working on right now? Like top 3 goals or 2, whatever, it doesn't really matter, but what are you looking to achieve?
Yeah, honestly, one of my biggest goals right now is to put some bows, to tie some bows on some projects I have, which are just like, I'm rehabbing a couple houses right now. We've got 2 or 3 vacation rentals that we're just like putting the final touches on before they go live on Airbnb, and like getting all of those up and going before June 1st, because I have promised my wife June to August, we doing something that does not involve work. The plan right now is to get a camper van and travel around.
Okay, sure. Yeah.
And it's been a nice short-term goal because it's given me like that
a deadline.
Like, get all these things in order. Like I don't want to have to take, I don't want to have to take all these calls and do all these things. Like, no, just like I need to be able to peace out with my wife and go do yoga for 3 months.
Okay. That's awesome.
So that's a big one. Another one is we got a really nice lake house on Lake Norman, which is like one of the big popular lakes here in Charlotte that we just got, and we're furnishing that. So like putting the final touches on that. It's a really big project, $1.1 million house we're putting up on Airbnb, and maybe get a little boat for it that we can rent out as well. And just kind of, it's lakefront, so it's really nice. So that's a pretty big project. Other big projects.
How big do you plan on getting like the co-living? You had 150 rooms now. What's that what's that look like? Is it good? Does it go 500 or is it kind of, you're at a sweet spot now? I know it's probably some sort of stair step approach, right? In terms of overhead and.
Yeah, my goal is 200 units this year. Okay. That's all units included. So that includes like co-living plus short-term rentals to get to 200 rental units this year. And we'll get there. Yeah, we'll get there this year. So and that's not, I don't feel like that's a crazy aggressive goal, but I just want to keep buying it. If interest rates go up, I'm just going to be looking for good, solid cash flow deals. That's the plan.
Yep. Yeah. And you know, it sounds like, I mean, you have a good model. If you can buy a nice home in a nice neighborhood at even a premium price and still make it cash flow, like, well, I think, you know, a lot of people may not, you know, a normal model isn't going to work. So,
right. So the appreciation on those homes has been obviously the appreciation everywhere has been stellar, but on the nicer homes, they tend to appreciate more.
Yep. Okay. That's awesome. Is there anything that the audience can help you with? Anything you're looking for, in terms of real estate deals or
no, man, I would just say if people are interested in learning about the co-living model or maybe someone is doing the co-living model and wants to add value, we've got a co-living investor community, I think is what it's called, co-living investors community. Okay. And it's on Facebook. I dropped you the link in the email that I sent to you. So I would just say that's how I'm interacting with a lot of people as far as helping me out. If anybody has deals in Charlotte, I guess I'm always looking for deals in Charlotte and Asheville, North Carolina, short-term rentals or co-living deals. So
cool. So someone wants to learn more about co-living, how they get started, best practices, they can join your community. And
that's where I'm interacting with everybody right now. Okay. Yeah, that's the best way to do it for sure. It's just join the co-living investor community on Facebook. It's a group and go from there.
And learn from there. Okay. Yeah. Cool. All right, cool. Any books you've been reading lately that have thought have been big impact on you?
You know, I started when my episode went live. It's a pretty popular book. It's by Russell Brunson. But I started to do some online coaching and training and
some ClickFunnels and some.
So yeah, my business partner was like, go to page 267 and read from there. He was like trying to coach me up. So I've been reading that. I've been reading a kind of a more philosophical book called King, Warrior, Lover, Magician. And it's like about these 4 archetypes or 4 like different parts of our personality that we all have. It's been powerful, man. It's like, there's a for guys specifically, it's like a guy book, but you know, it talks about the guys being a king and like what that looks like and the healthy king and the unhealthy king and, you know, being a warrior and being a magician. The magician is that like part of you that it's the part of you that understands that we're in a dream and like not to take life too seriously. And like, it can, you know, you can make problems disappear in a moment with a perspective shift. Full circle back to what we were talking about a few minutes ago. And the lover is just the playful, fun, outrageous side of all of us, right? And kind of teaches people to develop those sides of you. So it's been really insightful actually for me. Cool. So man, those are my 2 recommendations right now.
What was it called again?
King, Warrior, Lover, Magician, I think.
All right. Yeah. We'll find it on Amazon and link it up. And
yeah, awesome, King, Warrior, Magician, Lover, Rediscovering the Archetypes of the Mature Masculine. That's the name of the book.
Awesome. Yeah. Cool. I appreciate you coming on and, you know, sharing all your knowledge, short-term rentals and, you know, kind of creating this life of freedom. And, you know, I think it's an awesome story about, you know, 15 years old, starting this business. I mean, it shows anything's possible and you just kind of hustle and you save and, you know, you surround yourself with good people and it's impressive. So
yeah, man.
Cool, man. It was great chatting with you. And thanks again.
Yeah, Brian, thanks so much, man. Appreciate you.
That's all we got for this episode with the Business with Beers podcast. One thing that would really help both us and other new potential listeners is to rate the show and leave a comment in iTunes, Stitcher, wherever you listen. Also, make sure to link up with me on your preferred social media platforms, LinkedIn, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. You can find all my links at brianbeers.com. Please just share the podcast with anyone who you think might enjoy it. And until next time, remember to take the actions others won't to live the life that others don't.